What I like to call belt to ass week is over in college football. We're on to week 3. We're going to take a look at some of the biggest games on the slate this weekend, see who I like, look at some of the matchups. We're also going to dive into some Division II games, and make sure you stay to the end because we have a guest interview with Brady Lafferty, the quarterback from Western New England University. They just had a massive upset over number 13 Springfield College, their crosstown rival. So I'm Tim O'Shea, and let's dive in. So like I said before, last week was week 2, but I like to call it belt to ass week. We had many blowouts, multiple 70-point games. Now, if you look at the spread this weekend, there are some games that are going to be lopsided, that are going to be blowouts, some major spreads on the table. But we have a lot more competitive games this weekend, especially in the top 25. Conference play is starting up. We have a couple of ranked teams going on the road, a couple of ranked teams playing each other, and some upsets might be on the table. The Division II games this weekend are a little thin, but there are some key matchups that I do want to talk about. So number 1 is number 20 Ashland is traveling to number 25 Indianapolis. This Indianapolis team is a high-scoring offense, and they just lost a tough game, 38-35 to Findlay. And then on the other side, Ashland coming in with a really solid defense, only allowing 9 points in their last game. This should be a really interesting top 25 out-of-conference game. The second game I love this week is number 5 Grand Valley State traveling to number 16 Pittsburgh State. So I've talked about Pittsburgh State a lot this year, and that's because the first 3 games of their schedule are a gauntlet. So they started their season off at number 1 Ferris State. Then they had to go play number 19 Central Oklahoma at Central Oklahoma. And now they finally get a home game, and it's against the number 3 ranked team in the country, Grand Valley State. Now, Grand Valley State is a powerhouse, but they just had a close game against Black Hills State, a school from South Dakota. They only won that game by a touchdown. And as for Pittsburgh State, they kept up with Central Oklahoma, only losing to them by 3. Central Oklahoma started the season as the number 3 ranked team, but lost in an upset to UTPB. So I would say that this is probably the game of the week. I think Pittsburgh State might be able to pull it out, but it's going to be a close game. And the third and final game I like this weekend in Division II football is number 3 Minnesota State going on the road to Minnesota Duluth. Minnesota Duluth is unranked, but they are 2-0. And in Minnesota Duluth's last 2 games, they've outscored their opponents 96-14. So Minnesota State, good team, top 5 team in the country, on the road against a super high scoring offense. This is a conference matchup. This is an in-state matchup, and I am all for it. I'm really looking forward to that game. I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of fireworks over there in Minnesota. So now let's dive into some Division I games. We're only gonna talk about the biggest games on the slate this weekend, and I'm really intrigued at this slate. I'm liking a lot of these games. I think there's some upsets that could happen over the weekend. So let's dive into it right now. So first up, we have Vanderbilt going to number 13 South Carolina, Diego Paiva and Lenora Sellers. This is an absolute duel, but I don't think it's going to be high scoring. Right now, the over-under is at 49.5 points. I'm going to hit the under on this one. I think these are 2 solid teams. Now, you could talk about South Carolina's offense and how they've looked inconsistent, let's say, for the first 2 games. I just think people are putting way too much emphasis on this Virginia Tech game that Vandy played and South Carolina played. Yes, they played the same team. Yes, Vandy steamrolled them. It looked a lot easier than when South Carolina played them, but they're 2 completely different weeks. Week 1's always a tough matchup because you don't know what to expect from a team. You don't have tape, and they played at a neutral site. Vandy, on the other hand, did go into Virginia Tech and kick their ass, but Virginia Tech's just not a good team. So the line right now is at 3.5. The money line for Vandy is plus 130. I'm slamming South Carolina. I think South Carolina is going to win this game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Paiva's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's as good of a quarterback as Lenora Sellers. That guy is going to keep elevating his game throughout the season. He's going to be in the Heisman conversation. But these are the types of games that South Carolina drops. So they cannot do that this week if they want to be in the race for the college football playoff. Is this an upset alert? No doubt. Do I think South Carolina pulls this off? I do. I think they win this game. I think they cover. I think the under hits here. I'm going South Carolina. Next game on the slate is number 12 Clemson going to Georgia Tech in a massive conference matchup. The line for this game keeps shrinking. It is now at 2.5. For Clemson. And on ESPN, Georgia Tech is actually the favorite to win this game at 55%. Personally, I think this is really disrespectful to Clemson. I think Cade Klubnik is still a very good quarterback. I think he is NFL ready. I feel like Georgia Tech is just one of those schools that's always good for an upset every single year. I don't think it's going to be this game. There's too much hype on Georgia Tech. There's too much money on Georgia Tech. I don't see them pulling this one out. I think Clemson is a much better team than 12th in the country. And I know I'm going to get a lot of slack for that, but I believe in these Tigers. I know they played Troy last week. They only won by 11. That should have been a 30-point blowout. And then they lost to LSU. I think Clemson wins this game. I think they cover the 2.5-point spread, and I think they get out of there unscathed without an upset. But this game is on high upset alert. Next game on the list, number 6, Georgia traveling to number 15, Tennessee. The Volunteers hosting the Bulldogs in an SEC powerhouse matchup. I'm taking the Bulldogs. This is another line that's been shrinking all week. It started out at -6. Now it's at -4. I'm taking the Bulldogs. I do not think they lose this game. But what this game is going to come down to is going to be defense, and Georgia has the better defense. I think this game is close. I think Georgia barely covers. I'm thinking like 27-23 here in this game. I really think it's on the line of that spread. And Tennessee is a tough place to play, but like I said, I think Georgia goes in there and they take care of business and they show them who the real powerhouse in the SEC still is. Kirby Smart gets that win on the road. Now it gets interesting. Now we're going to take this one down to South Florida as number 18. Number 18, USF takes on number 5, Miami. This is going to be the game of the week. I'm very excited for this game. Byron Brown has been unreal. He's just been playing out of his mind. I haven't seen a guy play like that, run people over with the arm talent since Cam Newton, since Tim Tebow, those kind of guys. USF has the best 2-0 resume in the country. They beat ranked Boise State. They went and upset Florida in the swamp. I think this is going to be a game that says, was that Florida game more Florida losing the game or USF really winning it? I think that this is a close game. I think 17.5 that's a terrible spread. I think USF totally covers that. I don't see this Miami team blowing them out. The thing about USF is that they don't turn the ball over. They're going to hold the ball and keep it out of Miami's hands the whole game, and they're going to run it down their throats and then take shots when they need to. But this Miami defense is really good. I think that this is going to be an extremely close game. I think that USF is not going to go out without a fight. This is a crosstown rivalry too, on top of it all. I think this is a bigger game, honestly, for Miami than it is for USF to see what kind of team Miami is. Because I think USF's going to come and they're going to punch them in the mouth. So we're going to see how Carson Beck and that squad responds. So USF Miami, I'm taking the spread here for USF, 17.5, way too many points, way too many points. I'm honestly taking that spread at like 10.5. Do I think USF's going to win? Yes. Give me USF to win. I like what they got going on. I love the momentum. If they win this game, they might be a top 5 team in the country. Definitely a top 10, maybe a top 5 team. We haven't seen that since like 2007 with the Bulls. Miami gets punched in the face and doesn't know how to respond. I think USF does surprise some people and pull that game out. And now we're going to take it to South Bend. It's number 16, Texas A&M. The Aggies take on the number 8, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I like the Irish here. I think they're a team that builds momentum as the season goes on, and this is a huge game to take that next step and get a little bit back on track. It was a tough game against Miami. They lost that one in the final minutes, but they did make a little bit of a resurgence, a little bit of a comeback in that game. But they had a week off to game plan, to rest, to prep. Line open at 9.5 down to 6.5, but I still like Notre Dame. I like the Irish. I think they cover. I think they beat them by at least a touchdown. So they beat Texas A&M. They go 1-1, and this is where we're going to start to see this real Notre Dame team, what they really have as the season progresses. And finally, we have Florida, who is unranked after a loss to USF last week, and number 3, LSU at LSU in Death Valley. Can Billy Napier get a win here against the Tigers? No. He is not going to get a win here against the Tigers. This Tigers team looks very good. That game at Clemson to start the season, at Clemson, I feel like is a game that LSU and Brian Kelly, to be honest, usually loses. They won that game on the road. They'd go and take care of business against Louisiana Tech last week, only gave up 7 points. And I think Florida has the talent. I really like DJ Lagway. I like this team. I thought they were going to make some noise this year in the SEC, but their schedule is just such a gauntlet. They needed to start the season 2-0 to even have a chance at the college football playoff. And I just think the momentum and the morale after that USF loss, I just think it's done. I just think it's done. I don't see them going into Death Valley and winning this game with that type of atmosphere. I think LSU knows that Florida's on the ropes right now, and they're going to give them a knockout punch. The line right now is at 6.5. I think LSU covers this. I think they win by at least 7 points, at least a touchdown. I actually like the over in this game. 47.5 is the over-under. I like the over in this game. I think it's going to be I think LSU is going to be in the 30s. Florida's going to be in the 20s. I think that's where that game is going to be. But I think this is a must-win for Florida because the rest of their season is an absolute gauntlet, and you can't go into it with a losing record. At any point this season, if they want a shot at the college football playoff, they cannot go into a game with a losing record. So let me read off who they have the rest of the season, and this is in order. This week, they play number 3, LSU. Then they go on the road to number 5, Miami. At home against number 7, Texas. Then they have to go to Texas A&M, who is right now the 16th ranked team in the country. And then they play Mississippi State, who right now is 2-0 and knocked off number 12 ASU last week. Then they have number 6 Georgia. Then they have to go play at Kentucky, which is probably their most winnable game, but it's on the road. Then they play Lane Kiffin and number 17 Ole Miss at Ole Miss. And then they finish out the season with number 15, Tennessee, who has an opportunity to go up in the rankings this weekend. But when it comes to this week at LSU, I think LSU wins, I think LSU covers, and I think Florida has to figure something out for the rest of the season, man. So those are my predictions and my outlook for some Division II games that I really like this week, some Division I games that are on the slate. Please, if you listen to my picks, please gamble responsibly, but also be sure to subscribe and like this video as well if you want to see more of this type of content. But stay tuned right now as we head into an interview with Western New England University quarterback Brady Lafferty. Western New England, the Golden Bears, just pulled off a massive upset against their crosstown rival Springfield College, who was the number 13th ranked Division III team in the country. So we're going to dive into that interview right now and stay tuned for it. It was a good one with quarterback Brady Lafferty. So welcome back. We have a very special guest with us today. Brady Lafferty, quarterback from Western New England. The Golden Bears had a massive win over rival college, Springfield College, this weekend. Brady, thanks for stopping by, man.
Thanks for having me on.
What did that game mean to your school?
It means a lot. I mean, obviously, it's a huge rivalry for us, similar to how New Haven Southern is, crosstown rivals. So you see these guys out and about around the town. So it's very competitive, very physical game. They run the triple option on the for offense over there, so you know what you're going to get into each game we face off. Also, we've lost to them the past 2 years, so it's kind of been a little. Last year we lost by 6 points. The other year, I think we lost by a couple scores, but it's always been a good game. So just excited we could finally get a win out of it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about too. Last year, you lose to them. You guys had the lead late and then, unfortunately gave it up. But what was that mentality going into this game this year? And it was still a close game, especially late.
Yep. So yeah, our mentality was just, focus on us. I know in previous years we get a little too worked up about what the other team is doing and not what we're doing and what we can do to, better execute every play we have. Everyone's make sure they're doing their job. Kind of just having that mindset of just, only us, only focusing about us.
And number 13, they were number 13 ranked Springfield coming in. Did that mean anything to you guys? Want to knock them off?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Obviously, we, as a program leading into that game, we haven't had a win against a ranked team. So it definitely meant a little bit more to us going into it that they were 13th in the country.
What did you guys plan to do differently this time around, knowing that this was going to be a close game? Or did you practice differently in the offseason or leading up to the game, putting yourself in certain situations? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we kind of had a little bit more difficult spring ball than we've had in previous years, kind of implementing more, competitive periods, compete periods where, in the beginning of practice, we're doing mat drills, beginning you know, kind of emulate as best you can, like doing something that tires you and then go right into a team period. So kind of just implementing new ways to kind of, work into a physical game like, we play this past Saturday.
Yeah.
Kind of just, like I mentioned earlier, kind of worrying about ourselves, kind of, against triple option team too, you can't, can't turn the ball over. Each possession means a lot. So kind of just executing as best we can. That's kind of what we wanted to focus on.
Triple option's tough, man, to guard. It's crazy that they're still running it and it works.
Yeah, they run it very well. I think it's our defense did a good job defending it this year than in previous years, but it's definitely it's weird because like what you're going up against, but you just you got to dominate the line of scrimmage. That's what we got to. That's what we preach to our guys, being physical the whole week. So that's what we were doing.
So take me through the mindset here. Springfield goes up late, 2 minutes to go. So you
Yeah.
got to run that 2 minute drill. What is the game plan for that whole drive. And what was going through your head as the quarterback? And you were in that situation last year as well. So you know you had a redemption
Yeah,
opportunity.
I know. It's kind of just attacking them vertical, you know. I trusted our receivers, our coaches trusted our receivers to, come up and make good plays. I missed a lot of throws on that drive. First down, incomplete. Second down was incomplete. We ended up being on fourth and long and got bailed out with a PI call from the defense. So that kind of kickstarted us that drive. It was 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. We had three timeouts left. So we were in a comfortable spot. We weren't really rushing. Like we would if it was under a minute left and no timeouts, but kind of just slowly driving, moving the ball downfield. We ended up, I think, using up, we might have had two timeouts, but we ended up using up our last timeout and there was 14 seconds left on the clock. We got it within, gosh, like the 15, around our 15-yard line, and kind of just went through my play call. There's essentially double slants and like a little bubble to the outside. Simple read inside out. I liked check down was open. It was a tough throw to make because if he gets tackled right there, the game might be over. But like I said, trust my guy, Christian Delgado, made a guy miss and just dove from the 3 yard line, made a great play to win the game. So that was pretty exciting. That just tied up the game as well. We also Max Lagrasso and Drew Coet, two freshmen we have on our team this year, did a great job holding the kick and kicking it as well. That was just as important as that 2 minute drill at the end of the game. So it was a whole team effort there for sure.
Yeah, man, and you gotta stay composed because you still needed that extra point. I saw everyone was running off the sideline. When I first saw the clip, I was like, "Was this the last play of the game?" But then I saw some of your linemen were like, "Hold up, we got
Yeah.
to kick this extra point." So were you holding your breath on that one?
Everyone was. Everyone was on the ground praying that he was going to make it. Max, he's only a freshman, but he's a great kicker, great kid as well. So we were all confident he could do it. But God, those moments, you just hold your breath. Absolutely.
Did you ever see that clip of Steve Young when he won the Super Bowl and he said, "The monkey's off my back"?
Oh,
Did you get that feeling too?
definitely, definitely. Yeah, everyone was, bundled up together, ready, just waiting for him to make that kick. So it was definitely a good feeling. And we also had a kickoff to do, there were still 5 seconds left on the clock. So we had we planned on squibbing it in there. So the returner ended up breaking a tackle too. So it was a little bit, a little bit nerve-wracking, but our, kickoff cover unit did a good job fielding that.
Was this the biggest win of your career so far?
Jeez, I'd say this and then Thanksgiving my junior year against Cheshire. That was a big win.
Yeah.
Those two games are probably one of the craziest games I've been a part of for sure.
Was that the game? Was that the game that went to OT?
Yeah, we stopped them on I think they went for two. It was 21-20. They went for two. QB sneaked it right up the middle. We stopped them. So that was a pretty electric game. But those two games were definitely the biggest games in my career, I'd say.
So this is definitely the biggest of your college, at least.
Definitely college for sure.
Everyone sees you won the game, but
Yeah,
the next day you got to hit the film room. Are there
definitely.
any things that you saw that you got to get better at for your next game or throughout the rest of the season that you can improve on?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, just reading, box numbers, what's a good RPO look, what's not, just being more composed. Obviously, you're a little amped up for your first game of the year, so definitely wasn't perfect. I missed a couple throws, but came out the game with, no turnover, so that's, really all that matters. But yeah, just being more composed and just make sure the box numbers are good to, hand the ball off for throwing RPO. One of the couple things I got to work on.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You guys have your biggest rivalry game week one. That the preparation for that's got to be crazy.
Definitely, yeah. You got the whole camp. You try not to let it consume you too much during camp because you got to work, like I said earlier, you got to focus on ourselves the whole camp, make sure we're in the right spot for week one. But if you're a competitor, like this, all the game is all you think about for the whole camp and even leading up to it in the off season. So
Yeah.
definitely
I,
learned a lot.
as a leader on the team, how do you get the guys to refocus now?
Yeah, just turning the page. We had a good workout, good meeting and run yesterday on Sunday. So had an off day today. We had a little bit of meetings, but going into Tuesday, ready to turn the page. Continue to have a good week of practice, and get ready for week two against Salve.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And, I want to talk about you for a little bit right here. You went from D2, University of New Haven, down to D3.
Yeah.
How has that motivated you to be better and to prove yourself, at the lower division? And that's not as easy of a transition as people might think. So tell me a little bit about that.
Definitely was a little bit rocky, coming in. I transferred after my sophomore year, and put a lot of expectations on myself to come in right away and play, and that didn't ended up happening. I was the fourth string my junior year, So it was definitely very, very humbling for me to come in here. I bought into my role right away though, and tried to be, one of the best backups I can, learn the playbook. Came into my the spring of my junior year, still competing for that one spot. I wasn't really, it was still up for grabs, and ended up getting the starting spot going into the fall camp of my senior year, and it was really good. Had a really good year last year, but yeah, it was definitely. I love football. I always wanted to get better at it. I didn't really prove a lot. I played in the JV games in New Haven, but I didn't really get to prove myself too much at New Haven. So definitely coming here with a chip on my shoulder, like, hey, I can compete at whatever level I'm at, especially here. So be ready to go whenever.
Yeah, that same thing happened to me, man. When I went down to D2, I'm like, I'm the guy right away. But
Yeah,
then it was so frustrating because I wasn't seeing the field at all.
definitely.
And it's tough to stick with it and work through it. But I'm glad you did, because then you get wins like this later in your career, and it puts all the work in perspective and makes it all worthwhile.
So it definitely makes it all worth it.
Yeah, man. So where do you think that this team can go? You already beat the 13th ranked team in the
Yeah.
country, knocked them out. I don't even think they're in the top 25 anymore, but I
Mhm.
don't think you guys are ranked right now. So is that keep a little chip on your shoulder?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, just take it one week at a time. Worry about who we're playing each week, and trying to scheme up the best game plan for each week.
And you guys are going to Salve Regina
Yeah,
next week in Newport. Tell me
yeah.
a little bit about that game. Any matchups? Anything you could tell us what we can expect?
Yeah, it was a competitive game last year. I think we didn't start off fast last year. We are down 14-0 to start that game off. Ended up, battling our way back in the second half and winning 45-27. But we graduated a lot of seniors last year. We got, I think, almost close to 60 newcomers on the roster this year. So it's a whole new team. They got a new team, so should be a fun game. They had a really good game against UMass Dartmouth last week. So both of us are coming into the week 1-0, so it should be good.
All right, man. Well, thank you for stopping by, Brady. I
Yep.
appreciate it. The king of Springfield, Massachusetts.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, brother. So thank you, Brady, for stopping by the podcast. And thank you for watching the podcast. I'm Tim O'Shea. Please like and subscribe down below if you like this type of content and want me to make more videos for football and keeping up with the football season. Follow me at Tim O'Shea _ on Instagram and Tim Knows Ball on TikTok as well. Peace out.